Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the south-afrifur podcast. You're listening to myself, Ivik Wolf here. This is going to be a pre-recorded show for you this evening. Terribly sorry about the issue last Sunday, this being yesterday now for us, the 16th. A couple of issues with the upload and everything like that on the radio side of things.
It's those darn gremlins.
It's these darn gremlins. It must be like, maybe it's just a holiday spirit thing. Everybody's like, well, you guys should be on holiday. Take this for what it stands for, I guess.
It is technically a public holiday, so maybe the machines just decided they want rights as well.
Oh yeah, it's public holidays. So things that employed people celebrate.
Wow.
Well, being
way to harsh the buzz.
as a freelancer, you can work your own time, I'm sure.
Yeah. The bank doesn't appreciate it though.
Yeah. But tax must be an issue, hey?
I have someone who does that for me, and she's worth every cent that I pay her.
Huh.
Okay, so back to the fact that this is a pre-recording.
Yeah. But yeah, so this evening, obviously, we have Dwuff or Danelle Malan. This is the third time we're doing this introduction.
Hi.
She's a freelance artist here in South Africa. As far as I've heard from many of the people that I've actually spoken to in respect to you, you're one of the best, even.
Oh, wow. That's really nice. Thank you.
But yeah, we thank you for being here. We
Yes,
do really appreciate it.
Anytime.
Yeah. And all right, so maybe just we'll walk in on this one and just sort of talk about you for a couple of seconds. Like, how did you get into art?
Yeah, just hold on. Remember, since this is a pre-recording, if anyone wants to field any questions to Dwuff, please do so via our Twitter handle. We'll link you in, and we will try and answer your questions as best as possible. Please and thank you.
Yes. So Twitter. At south-afrifur.
Yeah.
At south-afrifur.
And
so,
at Dwuff?
Yeah.
Dwuff?
Yes.
Okay,
Dwuff.
cool. Dwuff.
Think about the noise a pillow makes when it hits your face.
Dwuff. That is the onomatopoeia on that is strong.
We used it in our comic once. I can't remember what it was. It was like some kind of smacking sound or a punch or something.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Ben says it was a punch.
Nice.
But, and with that kind of stuff, obviously, like you work on freelance comics as well. You and your husband.
Yeah, we have a web comic that we do together called Comic Star. It's a post-apocalyptic pirate adventure that has a lot of humor in it and some furry characters, saber cats mostly.
I have a copy of that. I've bought it at FanCon.
Then we must have met.
Yeah, we must have. I wasn't in a suit though. I don't have one.
In case listeners don't know why we're excited about this, is because we're trying to figure out where we've met before. Because the South African nerd, furry / gamer / indie whatever scene, I would almost call it incestuously small. Like most people know each other.
Yeah.
And
like they either have them on their like Steam libraries or they've met each other at like FanCon.
Yeah. Or follow each other on DeviantArt or something. We all go way back. We probably have met at some point.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the webcomic at the moment is on hiatus because Ben, my husband, works full-time as an animator and illustrator and graphic designer at Studio Muti. Their work is really cool, but unfortunately it means that our time to work on the comic is very limited because we have to hustle with some commissions and stuff to make up the gap in our income because we've recently moved. We've had to move to a much more expensive home, and renting is terrible, as everybody who rents will know and will tell you. So it's like a rush to keep on top of things. So unfortunately, the comic has been put on the back burner a little bit. It's not dead, and we really do want to get back to it.
And renting anywhere near Cape Town is...
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where you guys are renting, but like if it's anywhere within like a 10 or 12 kilometer radius of Cape Town, then it's going to be expensive.
Yeah, we couldn't afford to live anywhere closer than Observatory, so we're in Obs.
Okay. Albs is still fine.
It's nice. It's a nice neighborhood. I really like the community here because there's like WhatsApp groups where people talk about things, and they, if someone leaves a gate open, somebody posts on the group, and lost pets. It's a lot friendlier than you living in town used to be. Town is very, very fast paced, and everyone looks out for themselves. And over here, it's actually pretty nice.
Oh, that's really cool to hear.
Yeah.
But okay, so I mean, into the art scene of South Africa, which, as many of us have probably spoken about, is, I guess, relatively small in some senses, and especially when it comes to I don't know, like there are two waves of South African art. There are the people who are like the people who go to the galleries in Stellenbosch and in like all of the high up areas of South Africa, and they all
the fine art scene.
The fine art scene. And then there's apparently everybody else, which because that's kind of how it seems to us, doesn't it?
Yeah. This is actually like a very relevant topic for me because I do have fine art training. I have a degree from Michaela's, and the thing, it is kind of awkward sometimes between people feeling like there is no space for their voices in the fine art scene, and the fine art scene kind of, some people being like they're just interested in fine art and the philosophy that goes with that. And that in itself to me sometimes it can be a bit problematic because it's very much tied up in wealth and privilege, where I feel like fine art in South Africa really has a long way to go in terms of giving voices to people who really should be having voices and not just having a mayonnaise festival.
Yeah.
It's basically just rich white people admiring each other's work and buying each other's work and kind of, just putting all their spending power in that.
Yeah.
But shockingly, there are not a lot of non-white, I don't know if I should call them comic artists or independent artists or illustrators or what, but I mean...
I prefer the term graphic novel.
Yeah, you guys have seen the selection that's out there, and I mean, it's basically Loyiso doing Loyiso, and I'm sorry, if this is a recording, just edit where I'm Googling this lady's name.
No,
there is no editing.
There's no such thing as editing.
We don't have the budget for that.
The thing is, I know everybody by their freaking screen names. And it's like, I know the screen name, but then, yes, Mohale Mashiko, yes. I believe she writes Kwezi now. And there's also, is it Clive Beach, that also assists, I think, with the art. I mean, like, that's a power team, but there's far, far, far too few non-white creators doing things. I think it was Mahalo that actually tweeted the other day looking for someone to help out with a comic or something. I might be confusing her with someone else. Who wrote Intruders? No, it was her. It was her. Sorry. She wrote a collection of short stories called Intruders, which is pretty cool. And she was tweeting looking for a black woman to help her with illustrations. And like, I tried my best and I went through all my channels and we were looking for people and there's just like nobody. And to me, that is shocking. In a country, how many people are we? Like, 6 billion or some crazy number?
We're about 60 million.
Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, not 6 billion. Like a hefty amount of people, most of them not white. And that entire number, we couldn't find anyone easily available who has an online presence to do illustration for this project. And I was just like, this is shocking.
Yeah.
It just shows you we have so far to go still.
But I mean, in that same sense, it's also a business thing, isn't it? Like, many people are being told not to go into the fine arts or things like that because many people will say, well, there's no money in it. And for the vast majority of, especially in South Africa, that's kind of true. I mean,
yeah.
Like, if you look at the freelance, say, furry artists in South Africa, the vast majority of their money is made overseas.
For sure. Yeah.
Like, South African people don't make enough money to be able to pay the kind of prices that are fair to the artists who are working here.
Yeah.
You can ask any artist. Nanook is one of them,
Hmm.
as well as Electrocat,
Sudan.
Yeah.
You like the going price for an art piece like that should be anything between 500 to 750 rand for, like, I guess, pretty much, I don't know, depending on the time consumption, the amount of time that you've spent as an artist, so on and so forth. But 500 to 750 for a single character art piece.
I would even
seems
say that's like an icon's price.
Yeah, it could
Like
be
a
that.
$35 standard icon, Twitter icon, or whatever. But yes, you're absolutely right. I speak with my friend Dion DeLange, who does Gofu, and he's also a comic artist. He's been in the industry for quite a long time, and he always tells me, you know, the money is not in South Africa, because South Africans do not like buying art online. They will go to a craft market, or they will go to a gallery, and they will physically want to get something from a shop. And usually, if it's not someone clued up about what things are worth and what the sort of market values for things are and should be, they will usually be, you know, sticker shock is a very real thing at shows. We've had people coming by our booth and picking up original paintings and stuff, which, like, you know, I have a show special price sometimes. I had a bunch of originals there for something between 300 and 500 rand. And people just go, yo, that's expensive. Whoa, why is it so expensive? You know, and it's like, what do you tell them? It's like, sorry, that's what it's worth.
Yeah.
You know?
Because I put in time and effort? Question mark?
Yeah. I mean, my hourly rate is between 480 and 500, depending on the project. I did not just spend 1 hour on this piece. I mean, seriously.
Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to sketch,
Yeah.
get somebody else to color it in for you. Maybe you can work out some sort of price like that. But even then, like, I don't know, artists would rather have the entire sort of completed piece, because, like, the concept and everything like that is worked together with the person that you're speaking to. Electrocat would actually get you to come onto her stream, for instance, and you would have to talk about what they're doing and how they're doing it, whether you like it or not. And it's a very, very time-consuming sort of thing. I mean, that initial meeting was already a 3-hour meeting talking about, like, particular things that you wanted in the picture itself.
Yeah.
And okay, so guest 202. I'm assuming that would be your husband who's mentioning this on the chat here, saying that Jason Galant is another person of color that writes comics.
Oh, yes.
Souvenir
That
with
is
Daniel Hugo.
Yes. Yeah. Daniel and I have been friends for quite a long time. I actually did a project about him in Matric, which was like, geez, back when I was skinny and he had hair. 2003, 2002.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Yeah. So there are non-white creators. It's just like, I feel like, you know, to be not white in this country, the chances are that you do not have a whole huge platform to jump off of, like the middle class white suburbites do. And, you know, having a smartphone, having an internet, access to a good internet connection, being social media savvy, you know, there are things that we just got handed to us earlier than a lot of the other communities, the marginalized communities in South Africa did. And I feel like that makes a huge difference. You know, marketing yourself online is so important to be an artist these days. Like, you know, most of my business happens online. My biggest project last year, was it last year, was it earlier this year? I can't remember. But one of my biggest projects I got because someone found me on Facebook.
Wow.
Which was the weirdest and most random thing, but this project was huge, and it was like my top earning project for the year. And if I didn't have a Facebook page, you know, I wouldn't have gotten that. And I think so many artists, fantastic artists, are just languishing unseen because they don't have an online presence.
And I mean, like, obviously we could talk about this from the furry perspective as well. And again, like, international sort of furry art and things like that, the prices that we're technically talking about are the prices that anybody overseas is also charging. You're looking at around about 450 to 500, depending on what kind of
Hmm.
But it's okay. Nobody heard that conversation, right?
I heard a noise, but not much.
Okay. Cool. Because like I mean, and it kind of dies in South Africa, particularly because the price is unfortunately high.
Mm,
And if you wanted art of something and you wanted it from overseas, you're going to get the same kind of pricing, possibly even more,
Mm-hmm.
because
yeah,
it's a dollar to rand exchange.
yeah,
But and it's difficult to be able to sort of put something like 5-7 hours into something, but only get 500 rand out of it. It
yeah,
seems like that it's not a, as they would say in anime, it's not toka koka. It's not
yeah,
an equivalent exchange.
yeah.
And it's one of the reasons, I guess, maybe that we could say that the South African art industry isn't doing as well. You need to
Mm,
connect yourself with a massive company,
mm,
or you need to freelance and literally work your ass off 24/7.
mm. The problem is that South Africa, because we are so, I don't know, for some reason, a lot of the country is still stuck in, like, I don't know, the 90s or early 2000s or something, and people aren't aware of how times have changed in terms of buying art online and commissioning pieces. And a lot of people super, super hugely undercharge. And most of them are young and inexperienced. And unfortunately, there will always be a young and inexperienced person that these companies will, nab and ride them to death and underpay them and then discard them only to hire the next young and inexperienced person. That's why we're always trying to, when we're part of, artist groups on Facebook or whatever, always trying to hammer home, do not undercharge. You are screwing not only yourself, but everyone else as well. Because the people that charge a living wage keep getting undercut by people who will only be able to maintain that rate that they're charging for maybe a year or two until they completely burn out and have to go live with their folks or end up on street or whatever the case may be. And it's so unfortunate because I feel like people are undervaluing themselves.
Yeah.
Very much.
And it's got a very negative impact on the rest of the industry too.
And I mean, it's not just a South African issue. It's a worldwide issue that I mean, if you check any person's Twitter that is an artist, you can see that like a large amount of people sit there going like, "But why aren't you doing free art? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that?"
Yeah, that for exposure TXT is one of my favorite Twitter accounts.
I love for exposure.txt.
It makes me cry, but it also makes me feel less alone.
I know that there's a guy who there's a guy who actually does like YouTube videos where he reads a large amount of this stuff as well. Like one of them is for exposure, the other one is / like pretty much / misogyny.
Oh no, I think that would give me indigestion or ulcers or hemorrhoids or all three.
It's the way that he reads it though. It's absolutely like amazing. I can't remember what the guy's name is. I would do a search, but then you could hear me type on the PC, so cell phone. Hi. Okay. But yeah, so with that kind of like exposure and things like that, I mean it's good for a start. But if you really want to make a job out of it, you have to charge 500 or possibly more than that. I know that like some people work on it for an entire month and you're looking at going, cool, I'm going to charge $1,900 for your particular piece.
Yeah.
Especially if it's extremely technical.
Yeah. I mean, look at fursuits.
Yeah.
Those people are probably the only people that are charging what they should, and probably some of them are still undercharging. But like, I mean, and the thing is, I wouldn't say nobody questions it because there are always people who are like, oh, it's expensive. But, people understand, at least with fursuits, how technical and how much work it is and how long it takes. And, fursuiters usually only have very, very limited slots, and then they open up maybe once or twice a year. And then that is like their income for the year.
Sorry for laughing. Fursuiters with limited slots.
God damn it.
I'm done. Okay, sorry.
LOL.
Get your mind out of the gutter.
It was never out of it. Like, there's no way.
Commission slots, you parrot.
Sorry. But
no, but I hear you.
what's the word? I had my first suit made by Yote, for instance,
Mhm.
and I mean, I started commissioning it in 2015, and it was done by June of this year.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
And I mean, especially if it's like, I mean, if it's a, because fursuits are it's a product of a passion project as well.
Mm.
You want to be able to do the right thing with what you're making, and it's the same thing with art. It's always a passion project. It's not, and I know that there are some artists out there who kind of undercut that entire thing. They'll charge you high prices, but give you pretty much a carbon copy of, you know, a particular design.
Yeah.
You recycle a whole bunch of like little positions that you've got. This person looks like this. We'll, you know, tweak the face a little bit to look a lot more like, say, and especially you can see it done in the furry like arena quite quickly,
Mm.
where the artist no longer is putting sort of like little bits of themselves into the piece, because that's kind of what you go to them for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That you're paying for a position that had been done before. So in other words, all of your body work is done before, and then they just put a different head on it and different colors.
That brings up a question that I kind of wanna raise. Like, how does what's the general consensus around like YCHs?
What does that stand for?
Your character here.
Oh, right.
Mm.
I think it's pretty cool. Depends on the project though. Like we had a fan art contest for our comic to drum up some interest.
Uh-huh.
In the meantime, obviously we've since come to feel that spec work is wrong and we probably wouldn't do something like that again. But for everyone involved it was fun at the time, and we were small and you know, nobody was making money off it right then. So for people to cameo in our comic.
Okay.
And it was actually pretty cool. And I think if it was an IP that was very meaningful to me, say for example, I don't know if you guys listen to the Adventure Zone at all.
I don't think so. No.
It's basically a D&D podcast. It's from the guys that do My Brother and Me, the McElroy brothers. Excuse me. I keep reading it in my head as McElroy, but it's McElroy. If they had their graphic novel adaptation that they're doing currently, of the podcast's first sort of very successful arc, if there was a your character here for that, I would, you know, jump on that, because the IP means a lot to me, and I feel like this is something fantastic that I would love to be a part of. But overall, it's like, yeah, it really just depends on how much does the project mean to you and how eager are you to have connections with this thing.
That's very true.
And like in those kinds of projects, for instance, like I'm gonna just jump over to Patreon for a couple of seconds, where people pay, say, a monthly salary. I guess you're paying somebody like $5 per month.
Yeah.
And you have, say, 1,000 patrons. That's $5,000.
I wish. I have 7.
Plug your Patreon.
Patreon. Wait, I've got the page here. It's patreon.com/Danelle Milan, DANELLEMALAN.
Sweet. So
Yeah.
we'll have that up as well. I think we've already sort of plugged that in the introduction, like pictures that we popped out there. I think, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. Yeah, it should all be there on furry.fm's like front page. You can actually have a good look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, Behance, and Etsy are on here, but no, your Patreon is not on here.
Oh, that's
So-
strange.
Go put that on.
Okay,
there.
well, I mean, it'll be around. It's very easy to find me if you just look up Dwuff or Donaldo. You know, it's I usually cross-link everything from my social media around, so the link will pop up soon.
So the Beardly Ben, now he finally got his icon and his name. Great. Says YCH stuff is usually bidding system, like you bid
Yeah.
for your character to be in a particular.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. And, I mean, all of these concepts. It's literally because people aren't willing to pay their fare. Now they've got to go up against like other people who are willing to pay, and if you're going to be outbid, then you're going to be outbid.
Yeah,
And you can't complain about that for the first time.
yeah.
Have you ever had something like that where somebody like complained at you because your art was too expensive?
I think every artist has. The dumbest though is when you're at a show and people come up to your table, look at it, and exclaim into your face, "Wow, it's expensive!" Like, to me, that is so rude.
Mm.
You know, you wouldn't go. Well, I guess some people. You know, I say you wouldn't, but when I say you, I mean people with social intelligence. But there are people that would probably go to, I guess, Pick and Pay and yell at the tellers because things are too expensive. I'm sure there are people like that. But you know, for some reason,
There
when it's
are.
art,
Yeah, they're definitely.
yeah, there are no limits to how low people will stoop
Mm-hmm.
in public bad behavior. But yeah, with art, sometimes people just don't. They see it as something that just exists for their eyeballs to consume,
Yeah.
and they don't think about what goes into producing it. Like people always like, oh, you know, artists are so greedy, they're always begging for money and always charging. But those same people have, you know, Avengers posters in their house, and they have freaking Funko Pops on their shelf, and they have, you know, play games.
Yeah.
They listen to music. Like, take away every single bit of culture, and you will see how absolutely dead and not worth living life will become. Even reading,
Yeah.
just there will be no entertainment whatsoever.
No, for sure. Like
I mean,
the fact that people, I don't think people sort of expect artists to not have a living wage, but it's just it's the way that it's consumed and the way that the sort of the medium is like I don't know, like spent as currency is different to many other things. So I don't know. It feels like it's in this weird spot commercially, at least for me.
Yeah, it can be. It can be.
It all depends on like when we talk about things like for exposure, it would have to be something that the artist would want to do in the first place, and I don't think that you can force anybody by telling them, oh, it's for exposure. It's for instance, like we run a convention.
Mhm.
The convention in and of itself is literally it's not for profit, so NFP, and a large amount of the time we rely on, you know, artists who want to like see something grow. For instance, I know that for instance with Nanook,
Mhm.
he actually for our
Raffle.
he offered up 2 commission slots to our convention because he wanted to see, you know, money go to a particular to the
The charity
Wolf.
cause, yeah.
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 Was it the cheetah experience this year?
Yes, I don't think it was the Wolf Sanctuary this year.
Yeah, no. So yeah, we gave it to the cheetah experience. There was a lot of money that went there, and a large amount of the money we had actually sort of made, and I put this into parentheses, from the convention itself, like all of the extra cash, because there's like 3 tiers for what you get. For instance, it's like 500 rand per tier.
Mhm.
We used all of that extra cash, which was up to about, I think, 11,000 rand, and we literally just threw it at a particular charity.
Mm.
So there's no money to be made out of it. It's about like it's an act of goodwill. And
Yeah.
I think what people don't understand, when somebody asks for free art, that's not an act of goodwill. That's an act
That's
of
just
like,
getting stuff for free. Yeah, exactly.
I
Because
mean,
there's a difference between building community
Yeah.
and taking care of the lesser privileged and exercising your privilege in a way that benefits others versus some dipshit just coming up to you and being like, draw my character.
Yeah.
You know, you know what? Who are the biggest culprits? Often, it's very big companies that have the money
Yeah.
that they just want stuff from you. I don't know. For some reason, big companies just they pay poorly, they pay late. Sometimes they just don't even pay at all.
Ugh.
And there's always some issue because there are so many cooks in the kitchen, I guess, and everyone's trying to curry favor with the people at the top. So whoever can save the company money, you know, gets a pat on the head, and it screws over artists so badly.
But what would be a better idea? Having an artist that is loyal to your company that will do these things for you if you give them a small retainer salary of, say, anything between 5 to 10,000 rand a month. Like, you have to eat 5 to 10,000 rand as a retainer for whenever somebody wants like a piece that's going to go worldwide or national.
Yeah,
to 10
because
is
I mean,
it's
there's
not a
the
lot.
reproduction licensing fees that you got to look at as well. And South Africans, I find overall, don't even look at that stuff.
Mm.
We make a piece of art and charge for it, and then the person goes off and uses it for whatever.
Yeah, and that wasn't in the contract that you never signed because they didn't want to give you one in the first place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the issue of the art world in general, I think. I mean, on the one hand, you've got all of these fine artists who get there by what one could consider to be any kind of means necessary.
Mhm.
And I mean, I say that with utmost sort of respect for all artists. It's just that I'm pretty sure that it's a cutthroat world attempting to make it into the world of fine art.
It's
You
cutthroat, but with a very fine, polite blade.
There's no
Like,
no.
it's very political. Very, very
What?
political.
What's that? That sort of that tiny trowel they use for oil paintings.
Oh, oh,
A,
fuck.
a palette. A
I know
palette.
what you mean, though.
It's a palette knife. Yeah.
Palette knife.
Yeah. It's like a
Yeah.
cutthroat with a palette knife.
The gilded palette knife.
Guild.
Because people are so smooch, you know, oh, darling, I'm to you. But meanwhile, it's like, you fucker.
Wow.
And, you know, I am trained as a fine artist, but we were made to go to so many galleries when studying, and I got gallery exhausted because we had to go to the galleries and the openings, and we had to write reviews of the shows and philosophize about it and extrapolate the meanings behind the works and everything. And that's like fine up to a point, but that's really not where my passion lies. And I always felt like so much of it is just people taking chances. A lot of it isn't. A lot of it is absolutely fantastic, mind-blowing, life-altering, deep pieces of art. But then sometimes you go to a show and you're like, why is everybody kissing this person's ass?
Yeah.
What is going on here? And there's a lot of like funding scandals as well, like, you know, who the government chooses to fund and who gets funding and who gets to have a voice and who doesn't. Like, those choices are made by gallerists, and galleries, by the way, take a huge chunk of those prices. Some of them take up to 50% of the price on the tag.
Yeesh.
Yeah. And now you can imagine if you have a work that's marked up to, say, like 500,000. Yes, the artist sees a good chunk of it, but the galleries also get to pick and choose, you know, who they want to show and how much money they want to make off them, and who gets to, you know, there are some galleries that are basically like the taste makers of South Africa, and
Right, the influencers.
yeah, so getting into those guarantees you pretty much a platform. But sometimes I just don't know, you know, people, I have great respect for my peers and for my lecturers and everything, but sometimes I feel like there are just people who are absolute chances, and, you know, some bullshit. That's some bullshit.
No, go.
No, I'm just, that was my closing statement.
Have you ever played Life is Strange?
I haven't, but I do have a friend that did, and he was extremely enamored with it and said it was very good.
I mean, weirdly enough, and because the main character in Life is Strange is actually a person going to a fine arts school.
Mm-hmm.
She's a photographer herself.
Yeah.
But like the way that they, I think, portray the way that entire sort of interaction between, granted, look, there's a whole bunch of other stuff happening, but the interactions between these people going to this particular school, it's this massively prestigious, you know, school for fine art and like photography and so on and so forth, and everybody's vying for particular, you know, attentions from one particular lecturer because they're very good at what they do, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can see how mind-numbing that can become.
It's soul-killing. It really is. It's poison for your soul. Once the politics come out, it's just like, man, you know, you waste so much energy trying to schmooze and trying to network, and sometimes you really sometimes people just aren't interested in you no matter what you do.
And now you have to sit there sort of, I don't know, like making nice with someone who you hate their guts, they hate your guts, and It just, oh fuck, that sounds horrible.
But
No,
goodness,
it's frustrating.
you have to buy them dinner, and then they'll probably still fuck you.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I mean, yes, that can happen theoretically. Denal, please. Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. It's like it's very much like who's in the good books and who's in the bad books and the Whisper networks and stuff. And there is a lot of terrible behavior that gets excused because of positions. Like, I mean, no, I've gone completely blank on his name. Oh. The guy that beat the sex worker to death.
Oh, jeepers.
I know who you're talking about, but I don't know.
I tweeted extensively about this, and he's very famous. And I told you, I'm not very good with remembering names. Zwelethini Mthethwa.
That name rings a bell, yeah.
Yeah, because he holds such status in the fine art world. He basically practically almost got away with murder. I'm actually not sure what if he served a sentence or if he's still busy, but I remember he was convicted, but I'm not actually sure if he'll end up serving the whole sentence. But like, people just kept on showing his work, and he was up, I think, in the National Gallery or somewhere big, like one of the big galleries, was showing his work. And people are just going, what the hell are you doing? This man is on trial for murdering a woman, for beating her to death for no reason at all, unprovoked. I mean, there's this CCTV footage where he just literally stops and just beats her to death. I mean, if you were a nobody and that happened, your work would be pulled from galleries immediately. But I feel personally that maybe people thought they could maybe capitalize on the drama that was going on and perhaps be like, oh, this is the work of the controversial artist, and don't you?
No. Like,
Yeah.
You have to be controversial through your art, not controversial through punching someone to death.
Yeah, it was horrific. Like, just, oh, man, a mess. And the art world just stayed quiet about it for so long. I remember, I think it was Linda Stupart that was writing an article going like, why is everyone not talking about this? Where is the solidarity with women? Like, all these people that have this platform and have these big voices and far-reaching influence, why is nobody talking about this? Because he is part of the boys club, the rich boys club,
Yeah.
Nonsense. I don't have time for stuff like that.
The weird thing, again, and Life is Strange, actually, I'm sorry that I'm randomly connecting to Life is Strange, but it does this exact same thing. The rich person is the person that everybody coddles to the point that, if again, I'm not gonna give any spoilers to it, but there are particular things that are done by this particular person that are absolutely it's up to murder almost. And you kind of sit there going like, how do you excuse that? How is this? But then again, we live in a society where this happens so often. Look at
Very much so.
Look at what's the name? The famous football player in America.
Oh, the dog fighter.
No, not that one. American football player.
Kyle Kaepernick.
Murdered. No. Murdered his wife.
Oh, God.
O.J. Simpson, yes, and got away with it. And
Yeah.
then wrote a book about, if I did murder her, this is how I would have done it, and literally what?
Oh, man, humans. But I read a thing about this the other day. Somebody was tweeting a cool thread about it where, well, not cool in the sense of that it's interesting. It's tragic that it happens, but it is interesting how human psychology, basically, people realize that these people are shitbags. They just don't care, because to them, the ideology that they hold, the ends, justify the means. And without getting too political, that's why a lot of stuff that happens is allowed to happen, because people are willing to lie to themselves and to others if it means that their ideology will win out at the end of the day.
Yeah,
I think people feel kind of like, if only we can just get past this hump, then finally we can, write letters to the government to affect change in the way we want to or something. But in the meantime, we'll just turn a blind eye to all this nonsense that's happening. because the ends and the means, you know?
Yeah.
I completely understand.
But
It's a mess.
yeah, and now put all of that on top of the idea that, like, you know, art may not necessarily be the most. I don't. It's not the one that you think of when you walk out of high school, going like, "What am I going to go study for money?" And it's not art. It's not.
No.
Nobody really wants to do psychology, but it's a degree and it's okay. Kind of thing. And nobody wants to do English. Goodness knows how there are so many writers out there already.
A lot of my friends ended up doing English,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah.
Dion being one of them.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, Dion van Eden.
Huh.
Like
I just know
literally,
him- I just know him as the metal guy, or the sound guy for oh god, what's the game he worked on then?
yeah, but
Shattered
Broforce.
Realms. Yes, and he did Broforce too.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's an English teacher.
Yeah,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
He studied like literature.
Nice.
In fact,
That's
there was a
interesting.
point he went to Stellenbosch. There was a point that he was a lecturer about 2 years before I. Not a lecturer. He was
A demi or something.
Yeah, a demi and a
Tutor?
tutor
Yeah.
for like. I actually started demiing about maybe 2 or 3 years after he was busy there, and then he went over to UWC.
Can you tell me what demi means aside from demi-gender? Because that's the only demi I know.
Yeah, it's a sort of a lecturer's assistant, but only really during like practicals and tutorials and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Sort of like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, demi lecturer, like a
Okay.
like an under assistant kind of thing.
The third gender.
Well-
Demi lecturer.
Well, what is? I mean, is demi not like partial or like?
Yeah, hemi, demi,
Okay.
semi.
Yeah. Something like that.
Huh.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I honestly never wanted to do art as a career, actually. There was this book that I had when I was small that my mom got for both my brother and I that has, like, you know, my first footprint or my whatever, like this growth book that you get for your baby.
Yeah.
And you fill in year by year what they've done and, you know, what do they think of life. And naturally, my older brother's one is much more complete than mine, because that's how it always goes. The first child is heavily documented, and by the second one, they're just like, oh, fuck it.
Yeah, we have a few photos. It's okay.
Yeah, so I found this book, and I started filling it in year by year. And one of the things, I think I must have been 9 or 10 or something. And it was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And my 3 options were housewife, comedian, or physiotherapist.
Wow.
Those were my life goals. And by the time I finished high school, I didn't want to do art simply because everyone was going, oh, you're probably going to go study art. You're the art chick. And that pissed me off so much that I went and studied. I did like a year of mission work. And then I did 2 years of reflexology and meridian therapy. And then halfway through that, I realized, fuck, I really want to study art. And then eventually applied for and got into Michaela's. And yeah, that was it. And now I'm really, really happy with the career choice that I've made.
That's awesome.
And I mean, like, we need artists. I think that
For sure.
it's one of the things that the world over needs, because artists, and for that matter, anybody within the like social sort of arts areas, English, languages, writing, things like that, like, you have this sort of outside view of what's going on around you from a social perspective, and then you can sort of speak about it in whichever form you feel is best.
Yeah.
But obviously these days, like, art gets just appropriated in whichever way possible. I mean, they'll use you, for instance, to create one particular logo, and it gets boring after a while. And I don't know, like, yeah, it's one of the things that I've been saying. Like, I speak about, like, Nanook, for instance. And if Nanook does listen to this, I do apologize almost immediately. But one can see when a person's heart isn't in what they're doing at that particular point, where it's just become, I'm going to draw this for drawing's sake.
Yeah.
because somebody's commissioned me to do this. I will do this in this particular way. There's no way you can stop me. I'm going to do it like this.
Yeah.
You can. The weirdest thing is you can see it in the character's eyes.
And if they don't have eyes,
then you can see it in whichever other
In the
expression
body
they have.
language.
the tentacles.
Yeah, in their tentacles. Yes. Cthulhu is sad.
No more souls to eat. Oh.
Cthulhu needs a self-care day.
You know what, to me, that often comes down to is being either A, underappreciated, or B, underpaid, or C, both. My worst work, and I say this apologetically, if anyone I've ever done work for before is listening, sorry, but you guys really should pay better. The textbook illustrations I used to do were not my best work, because they would want a huge ass amount of work for very, very little money. And, you know, my hand was already acting up. I was in pain. I was not making my bills. And these people want this freaking classroom scene with groups of children, and this group has to be doing this, and that group has to, and then the teacher has to be bending over and explaining something, and then there have to be 3 cats outside the window, and this, and they want to pay 300 rand for it. And I've gotten some really nasty feedback from textbook people, but I feel like if you're going to pay me 300 rand for a classroom scene, you're going to get a 300 rand classroom scene.
Also,
pay the artists better.
Also,
Yeah.
300 rand is basically what that textbook will cost.
Yeah, exactly.
So you pay for like the price of one goddamn textbook. That's ridiculous.
And that's not even the price that the company is paying, because sometimes I would work through an agent, and the agency also takes their cut.
Of course.
You know, so I end up getting paid even less. So I completely gave up doing textbook work because it was destroying my soul and my hand and everything. It was not worth it financially, you know. So I ended up, because of my wrist injury mostly, starting to sit back and reconsider and starting to do work that I feel is more enriching for me. Mm-hmm. And work that is easier on my hand. I've been training my left hand to do art, actually, becoming ambidextrous. It's not quite at the level where you can... I mean, there are things for sale in my shop that I did with my left hand, and people happily have bought some of it, thinking like, cool, this is a nice art, I want to hang this in my home. Mm-hmm. But my left hand will probably never reach the proficiency of my right hand, because I didn't start as a tiny child. And, you know, anything you start as an adult will always be more difficult to learn. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I basically just changed my whole outlook on my career. And I am very, very privileged and grateful to have a husband that is helping bring in a salary, because without it, I would probably be screwed. And I fully admit that. I mean, there are lots of people who owe their success to a supportive family or spouse or inheritance. For, you know, people that make it big are frequently big because of luck, pure and simple. Yep. You know, you can be the best artist, but if you don't have a platform, if you don't have funding, if you have to work 3 retail jobs to just cover your rent, and there's no energy left for art, then that amazing artist will never be able to make it as an artist, because no one will see their art.
Yeah. That is completely true.
And it's actually like so frustrating to come to the realization that luck is most of success, because you like to think that hard work always gets rewarded and perseverance always gets rewarded, but it's not always the case. Sadly, that's just not how life works. Yeah. If you become successful, it's most likely because you knew a person who knew someone who could give you a break, or you were in the right place at the right time, and you got some traction on social media, or something happened. But it's not like people are going around looking, hey, who works really hard? Who can I pay to make art? It's usually some kind of social connection that leads you to that.
Charles Bukowski, don't try.
Who's that? Who's that?
Is it Charles Bukowski?
I know Mike Bukowski.
Is it Bronkowski?
No. Is it Mike Bukowski or Charles Bukowski?
What did he do?
Who wrote Postal? Go.
Oh, I actually don't know.
Fuck. Okay. Yeah. Postal Service novel by Charles Bukowski. Yeah.
Okay.
He was an author and a drunk, and eventually came down that like he was eventually sort of successful, but he like on his tombstone it just said like don't try. Like he
Post office.
Yeah, post office. Sorry, not postal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah. What am I gonna say? All right.
Luck.
Yeah. Yeah. Luck is such a sort of big factor, like in that, and like the only. It's sad to think that the only real way that you're gonna break in somewhere or make inroads anywhere is by like the sheer luck of the draw that someone might see your thing somewhere online, and then go, you know, I want to hire you for a thing.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, I think that the South African, the furry scene in general, is actually very, very good for this kind of stuff. I mean, if you look at the vast majority of artists that are out there, and I mean, there are many, 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 many of them to choose from. Like, I'd probably almost state around about 5,000 artists easily inside the, you know, higher brackets of you know,
Puppyferdom.
artistry. Not even puppyferdom. Like, they're trained in fine art, or they're trained in any kind of art form, or they're trained on their own to be able to draw a particular style of art, and they're all out there. Again, you're up against 5,000, 6,000 artists, yet the vast majority of them can make their own sort of way through it. And I guess that's possibly one of the reasons why, you know, speaking to artists is something that we would love to do a little bit more about, is because, you know, it's good to be able to just hear about the process of what happens between point A and point B, like between a commission to now, like what kind of work goes into that. And being able to know that kind of information, especially from a consumer's perspective, means that there's more agency from the artist's side to say, you know, if you don't know what kind of work goes into this, here's something that you can look at and listen to.
God.
I've actually been recording works in progress. I have a lot of footage that hasn't been edited yet, but I'm trying to work on my YouTube presence. I think it's a nice thing to add as well for your customer who commissions you. I will often record the pet portraits that I paint, and I will make a little time lapse and put it on YouTube. And then I will say underneath, this is how long it actually took. And the video is 6 minutes, but this actually took me 3 hours to do. And, you know, enjoy. And a lot of it, you know, is just literally detail painting. And I think it's nice for people to see that kind of thing so they can see, oh, wow, actually, this is a lot of work.
Why don't you stream on Twitch?
I do stream commissions sometimes. I have a setup now where I've got a little Canon Legra that I don't know if you saw that tweet earlier with the engagement ring that I designed. That project actually enabled me to purchase this Canon, and I have this now, and I've got my webcam next to it on a boom arm, and I've been experimenting with recording while streaming, basically using the video camera so that my computer doesn't have to record and stream, and therefore, you know, it won't lag as much.
It won't chug.
Yeah, so I do stream commissions mostly, but also if I do personal work, and I think it might be fun to watch, like the other day I streamed some paintings of Carl because I was trying to design a Christmas or holiday card that had a summery theme, because I'm really sick of seeing snow and ice and freaking everything in this bloody hot weather. And I mean, there's the whole of the Southern Hemisphere, there's South America, there's Australia, there's us, and, you know, a whole chunk of the African continent. Like, all of us are having summer Christmases and summer holidays, and, you know, that just doesn't matter to most of the world for some reason. I don't understand it. Steam even used to have summer themes for us, and now they don't do that anymore, and I'm just like, that's so rude. How can you do that and then just scale back? It's not like you're broke. You can afford to pay an artist to make a summer theme. Come on.
Yeah.
Really? But
And-
yeah, so my
yeah.
Twitches should be linked, I think, in the thing.
We definitely will link it if it's not linked.
Okay.
What we have here is your Facebook, your Instagram, your Behance, and your Etsy.
Etsy. Yeah,
Okay.
you just send us the link to the newer things.
Sure. My
Amazing.
Twitch is just Dwuff as well.
Okay,
Because,
cool.
I mean, and Twitch is actually, I honestly, there's an amount of belief that I have in Twitch, and the fact that like you're not just getting paid for the work that you're currently doing, you're getting paid by people who are enjoying the interaction with you as an artist.
Yeah,
And I think
it's really nice.
It really is. There are people again who make large amounts of money off of this by using a particular platform to sort of show that, you know what, I art, and guess what, I also exist as a human being. I'm not just some person with a pencil and, you know, paint brushes and things like that, doing a whole bunch of things like a robot.
Yeah, it's really nice. The thing though with streaming art on Twitch is I'm still trying to figure out how to really build my audience, because it's not like with games, at least you know more or less what you're getting. You can get the game that you like, but you know the streamer might not appeal to you, or they might appeal to you, or whatever. But with art, it's kind of like a bit more difficult to retain an audience, I find. Even the really big artists that I follow on there, you know, the audience numbers vary wildly. And if you're not already known, it's a little bit more difficult. So networking really is key if you're going to be streaming on Twitch. And then obviously streaming at a time where international audiences can reach you. There are people who stream during our daytime, obviously in Europe, that attracts more of a European and maybe some Australian, Japanese, that kind of demographic for the time slot that they're in. And I mean, it's not like they're less prone to donating or anything. It's just a different type of audience.
Yeah.
So you got to think about when you stream and who's going to be in your stream. Is it going to be accessible? Is it going to be appealing? There are lots of factors. And actually, most of my audience I got from modding for other people. I used to mod for a big Binding of Isaac streamer.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, it was great. But then, I don't know, I think the fame got to his head and he got a little rude. But now I mod for a lovely streamer, FG Squared. She streams RimWorld, Oxygen Not Included, that kind of thing. Mostly RimWorld, and I really like RimWorld. It's so addicting. I mean, you guys know.
Yeah.
So I'm on for her, and it's nice to just get to know some people, and then they'll often follow you just because you're a mod or you're there, or they like your conversation. And then when you stream, you have some audience, you know, provided you don't overlap with your streamer that you mod for.
Yeah.
That audience will often tend to follow you from that stream to yours just to be able to hang out because they already know you, which is quite nice.
That's really cool.
So I mean, like, and there are many ways that I think, many ways to skin a cat, I guess, but to be able to make an audience that is, I think, useful in certain senses. I mean, like, one of the things that I don't know, like, I've always found this to be sort of very annoying, is that when, like, you were talking about toxicity online, you'll find that with these people who've gotten pretty big in their own little fandoms, start feeling as though the people that they have who are watching them become beholden unto them. Instead of, you know, you as a creator is then beholden unto your audience. It's that your audience becomes your army, and you can see that with people like PewDiePie. You can see that with anybody.
Logan Paul.
And for some reason, and I don't know what happens, but you're looking at, if you looked at any of PewDiePie's earlier videos, the ones from like 2008, I think.
Yeah.
When I was still following him, for instance. I loved the work that he put out there. It seemed genuine. It seemed, you know, normal in some senses, and you were able to resonate with the way that he was then. And at some point between 2000, well, since he started in about 3 to 4 years in, it became difficult to resonate with him at all.
The cockroach completely fell off the cork. I agree.
And
like, some of it was hilarious. Like, I nearly peed myself laughing for some of his older stuff. And then do you think perhaps he feels trapped in a hellscape? where content creation is the only thing he feels allowed to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
He is
he
the monkey
kind
that
of
must
just
dance.
keeps, yeah. I don't want to get that famous, guys. You know, there's a financial benefit to internet fame, but holy crap, can you imagine that existence? It must suck.
Lo and behold, you misstep once.
Oh, yeah.
But then again, if you've got like 200 million people watching you, misstepping once doesn't remove them. It just adds 50 million more people.
Yeah.
That depends.
But that's where the art of a good PR, you know, situation really helps out, because you can remedy a lot by just being honest and apologizing and acknowledging things that hurt other people. Because, you know, when you are a content creator, you have to take responsibility for your mind babies, if I can put it that way. Like, you're producing content that people are going to be absorbing, and you have to understand that after a certain point, you can't just do what you feel like without thinking about it anymore, because the chances that you might hurt someone become bigger. So I'm not saying like don't, you know, be completely sanitized. I mean, just when creating stuff, just think about what you're saying, how big your platform is, how big your reach is, and can I add to the world, or am I going to be taking away from the world when I put this thing out there? Like, we had a Maori character in our comic that I reached out to I can't remember where it was, but it was a University of Auckland. And I said, look, we have this character, and we've begun realizing that maybe having a Maori character with facial tattoos and stuff might not be the most culturally sensitive thing. Can you give us some guidance? And the person replied basically saying, you done fucked up. And we were like, yeah, we did. We're sorry. So we changed the character. And it sucked. It was a terrible feeling. I mean, our audience isn't even big. It's like we had a handful of people reading the comic at that point. But still, we felt like this is the responsible and the right thing to do. Yeah. We're white. We're privileged. You know, especially in South Africa, in a place that we've seen the effects of racism and we continue to see it daily. We really ought to have known better than to do this. So we changed it. And it sucked, but it was worth it, I think.
And weirdly enough, and I mean now, Tempo is one of the people that we speak to quite often. Now, he's a writer of many things, including pornography. But, and again, sex sells. It's literally just one of those things.
It does, but the world is so keen on outlawing it for some reason. Everyone wants it. No one wants to pay for it. It's weird.
Yeah. Tumblr time of death.
Yeah, holy crap. This is like the ultimate bull pit. This is like if they took that pulpit and made it a quarter of the size and two balls in it. And like, it's the end of Tumblr. It really is.
Yeah. And weirdly enough, it almost feels like it's the end of free speech.
A little, yeah. There's a lot of clamping down on that happening in the States right now.
Don't talk about sex where anyone can see it. Heaven forbid someone who's gay might find out.
Yeah.
Might find out they're gay.
Oh, no.
The major issue here, of course, is also the fact that, you know, like the reason why they're clamping down is to clamp down on a particular other way of, you know, interacting with people at the age of 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, pajamas. But it's this overreach.
Yeah,
no, for sure.
Like,
definitely.
Yes, pedophilia exists, and yes, it should be clamped down on, but don't...
They're literally throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
Yes, because the bathwater is the important part. The baby, on the other
Get
hand...
that fucking baby. The bastard.
I think I have a way to solve this, guys. Let's just all stop having kids.
I thought you were gonna say it was gonna involve a mincer, but okay, I can opt for the other one.
Like I understand where you're getting at, like feed the hungry to the feed the homeless to the hungry kind of thing, but yeah, like just stop having kids, guys.
Yeah, it's way too many already.
That topic for a female identifying person in their 30s. It's not.
Yeah.
It's a stressful topic. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Let's move away from babies and,
But
and
yes, but
thinking
the
about
bottom
the
line
children.
is, yeah, it's there's a lot of clamping down, but it's very ham-fisted. And
Yeah.
I feel honestly it's less to do with the pedophilia problem than advertisers. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's about
But-
money.
Yeah.
Damn.
We can't advertise to you having like naked people around. Sorry.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Patreon thing also really damaged a lot of sex workers and people who are doing sexual content like comics and, very useful, even educational stuff.
Yeah.
I think Erica Moen has problems with that because her comic Oh Joy Sex Toy is very, very valuable. I find it amazing.
yes. It's a fantastic comic.
educational.
Sex toy.
It's a fantastic premise.
Yeah,
It's wonderful. But now, because they want to sanitize Patreon, or I'm not even sure exactly why they made that. It's probably advertisers again, or legal gray areas.
They want to sanitize Patreon as well.
I think the rules are already in practice where you're not allowed showing adult content.
Oh lol.
I'm not sure exactly what because I don't really make adult content. I can appreciate it, but I don't feel like I'm being me if I make it.
Mm-hmm.
I might make it in future, but probably not in the near future. I have to work through the mental blocks I have against it. So I was raised very, very conservatively, and there are still some things that stick that I need to work through before I can be completely sex positive with my public facing work.
No, you do you, girl. Take your time.
Yeah.
Nobody's rushing you.
Yeah. Make more money though. No, but honestly, coming back to an earlier point, furries though, I really appreciate them so much as a demographic because furries a lot of them are into kink, as you know. A lot of them are sex positive and a lot of them are very welcoming, and a lot of them honestly appreciate and know what art is worth.
Yeah.
There is no better client than a furry who loves your work and really wants to support you. I find that they tip the best, they pay up front, they are the least shady people that I've worked with. Like, I just, it's nice. It's just nice working with furries overall. I've never had a problem client that was a furry.
You get, I mean, there's always one or two exceptions, but like in all honesty, it's just the fact that furries just don't want to cause any trouble. It's like we want to be happy, we want to have fun, we want to make sure that everybody's sort of taken care of. Would you like a hug? All that kind of stuff.
But even then, like the idea of that hug part, for instance, like you're looking at a group of people who are very, very often socially unable to interact with people face to face, and yet put them into a safe environment like a convention, and you will see if there was a hug counter. I'd say that look at MFF for instance. Midwest Fur Fest, you'd probably have a hug counter up and into the 2 to 3 million on a daily basis.
And the community is also, sorry to interrupt, but on that topic, the community I find generally, because there's a lot of overlap with some of my friends who do they make props and they do costuming and stuff like that. Yeah. There's a lot of overlap with that community. And when something goes down like the Nazi furs or the alt-right furs or whatever that whole thing was, the community is quick to, the community is quick to mobilize about it.
Yeah.
There will be conversations about it. There will be measures put in place, at least from what I've seen. And any convention that wants to retain its attendance will have to act on that kind of thing because, for a group of people that want to be welcoming and kind and, like you said, just have safe fun, that kind of thing is so important to root out immediately.
I mean, and then as soon as you start rooting that out, then they whine like, wah, I thought you guys were supposed to be tolerant and everything. And then it comes back to the paradox of tolerance that I've spoken about like 100 times. So, yeah.
I put something down in text that like obviously for our convention, we have the same thing happening. It's that there are particular groups that we do know.
Wait, don't tell me. Oranje furs.
No, not even.
They have internet in Oranje. Did you know that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was shocked. I said something about Oranje on Twitter, and this person with this old flag in his avatar just like jumped on me, and I was like, "Oh, they have internet!
They've learned to tweet.
I just
I can lock tweet."
Oh, shame.
Sheep. It's Oranje. It's not cows. It's just sheep.
I say this as an Afrikaans person. I am very much Afrikaans, but holy crap, those people. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, I mean, there's a certain level of tolerance, unfortunately, and I think that the one thing that you can actually see in the furry fandom quite often is that it's the, what would you call it, almost the yardstick for what should and should not be tolerable. And as soon as like furry Twitter gets involved in something, like the entire week is consumed by that particular person.
I cannot keep up with all the news.
It's interesting though that you say that, because I mean, I don't follow too many furs on Twitter, but I do follow a lot of indie comics creators. And you can always see there's like a ripple. You'll see someone going, "Oh, I cannot believe this thing has happened," and then you're like, "What's happened?" And then you scroll down and you see everyone is immediately tweeting about it. Like an article came out, or somebody spoke up about sexual harassment, or some news broke somewhere. And then your whole timeline is just that for like the rest of the week.
And there will be at least 2 or 3 furry voices somewhere there. You can obviously count them by the kind of avatars that they have. Like, oh, cool.
No comment.
They just pop up.
They're just there.
But again, and weirdly enough, the furry community is one of the most amazingly self-correcting like communities that I've seen in my entire life. I've never actually been able to see people just mobilize in the way that they do and say, "This is shit behavior."
I think the furry fandom has definitely grown up quite a lot since the early 2000s, because that never really used to be the case. People there was that whole don't ask, don't tell kind of whisper network vibe going on, but not a whole lot of call out culture as it is today, which is a double-edged sword. There's call out culture, and then there's just bandwagon victimizing culture, and there's an important difference. But call out culture is useful in terms of, the Me Too movement and, all that. But yeah, there are always elements that come out from the woodwork.
Yeah. But responsibility is one of the most sort of important things. And that's also, as a content creator, that kind of responsibility unfortunately does fall onto you at times. And again, like you were talking about earlier,
and onto us.
When it comes to Maori culture, for instance, it would be better to have the go ahead for something. And I was talking about Tempo now earlier, and Tempo, for instance, writes about particular cultures. But the first thing he does, in fact, at one point he was talking about, he was writing about, what was that animated movie that was taking place in Tibet?
Oh,
with a dog.
Oh, Rock Dog.
Yeah.
Oh.
He wrote a porn about Rock Dog.
Interesting.
He's very prolific at writing like that. I can't even believe it. Like, there are certain things that I saw recently that are absolutely fucking mind-blowing. But what he actually did, he wanted to find out about Tibetan culture and how to write a Tibetan character. He, for some reason, got himself involved with the Tibetan Council to find out more about Tibetan culture so that he could write about it. And that's the responsible way to do it.
Yeah.
Go to the people who know best about their own culture. Ask them if you can, and then go from there. And I guess as soon as you have that go-ahead, it's the best go-ahead to have.
And paid sensitivity reading is also a thing that I hope would become more common, because a lot of people have like their one non-white friend or their non-cis friend, and then they will demand, Pixel, stop chewing the box. No. Oh. Sorry, my cat is chewing my my packing supplies box. She's making cat confetti. Naughty. What was I saying? Sorry, I got completely distracted by that.
Sensitivity reading.
Yeah,
Yes,
that
yes.
one's his friend.
And they always demand emotional labor from their friends. And I feel like that is such an unhealthy way to treat a person who already, in all likelihood, daily does emotional labor for free just for the pure right to exist. So I think if you have a friend or if you have somebody that you would like to approach for something, it's always best to set aside a small budget or a medium, large, whatever budget, and ask them, I have some sensitivity reading work. Are you willing to do it? A, and B, how is this fee for you? Is it enough? Because honestly, like, I can't even imagine what it's like to have to deal with that day in and day out. I mean, I'm a white woman, mostly sort of, I guess, is presenting, well, I don't even know these days, but like, no, she's scratching my cheek, get off. Sorry, this is like a little toddler. Naughty. Ben, please distract our daughter.
Number one cat mom, ladies and gentlemen.
She's
Husband.
so cute. She's so cute. I can't yell at her. She's adorable. But like, I went on a mini road trip with my in-laws and I had my head shaved bald at that point. And just dealing with people, strangers, like treating me in a certain way. Because at one point I have camo tights that I like to wear, and I had this bald head. I mean, and I'm hugely tall. I'm like 182 centimeters tall, which is for South Africa quite tall for a woman. And I've got broad shoulders, and like, you know, so I go into the ladies' bathrooms, and the looks and the comments and the stares, and like children, like you could practically see mothers covering their children's eyes and like yanking them away from me. One woman nearly fainted because she thought she walked into the men's toilets. I was like, can you imagine being a trans person that doesn't pass, or being, you know, somebody with something that's obviously not status quo, like just dealing with that. I came home from that holiday feeling so disgusted at the world, because people couldn't just let me exist.
That was,
you know, it's
we have a trans person at work, and they recently we also have like a little bit of a show and not really show and tell, more like a tell us about yourself, get to know you kind of thing whenever someone new gets into the office, and they said something that sort of really sticks with me with regards to like trans people, that I think a lot of like cisgender people can sort of take into account when they're dealing with non-cisgendered people. It's like, essentially, think about how much shit and how much shtick a trans person has to put up in their day-to-day lives, and then imagine that they would prefer that over like the chaos that comes from like
dysphoria.
The gender dysphoria.
Yeah, I think about that too. Like, who would choose that as the fun life?
Yeah, who chooses life on hard mode and that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Like the same with being being gay, I suppose. Like it's like you're already like upping the difficulty of your life and your social interactions a notch. Why would you choose that? Like, if it was a choice, why would you choose that?
Yeah. No, it's hectic. No, I'm very, very much in awe of what trans people manage to do. Like, they manage to go out and achieve and live their lives and just be visible. Just that pure, just that plain thing that we all take for granted, I think is just amazing.
Yeah. No, for sure.
So yeah, if
Brave
there are any
folks.
trans listeners, good on you. And I think
Brave folks, brave humans.
I mean, the fact that it's actually becoming far more, I think, acceptable in South Africa as well, because there's a point that, like, it's, I don't know, because South Africa is so heavily invested in American opinion of the exact same thing.
it is interesting, isn't it? How obsessed with American stuff we are.
Yeah, I talk to my students about that very often. That, and especially, the worst thing is that it's not the best parts of America that we're following. We're following
God,
all
no.
the worst trends.
Yeah.
So when America's being transphobic as sort of a general rule because the president is transphobic, South Africa picks up on that very, very quickly.
And there's a lot of people that just go, aha, see, we're justified.
Yeah, because America says so.
Mm.
And I don't know. There's another group of people that need to be more responsible about the things that they say, but Donald Trump will never be responsible.
I see the rats are leaving the ship, though. So hopefully that means good news for my American friends. Good Lord. You know, we had Zuma, and I had friends in America who would be like, oh, things are bad here. This is in the Obama era.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go, you know, I wish I could explain to you how fucked up this country is.
Yeah.
And now that they have Trump, I think they understand, and I don't feel any satisfaction in that whatsoever. I wish they never had to learn that lesson.
Yeah.
Because that just, you know, how many people have died and suffered, and I mean, the concentration camps, essentially, what they have for the immigrants. Like, what? It's just like, it's beyond my scope of reference for how shit humans can be.
Yep.
Like, how can you do this and think, yeah, I'll have turkey tonight. I'll sleep. I'll feel good tomorrow.
Yeah, and the easiest way to say that is, like, just simplify it just for a couple of seconds. There is a country in this world that is literally taking people who are running away from their own country and putting them into an even worse situation than the one that they ran away from.
And sometimes sending them back even.
Yeah.
It's horrific. It's absolutely horrific.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the point where you kind of go, what can be done? And I would say start with being a responsible content creator and use your platform to speak out when you can, and give those that don't have a platform, let them share yours. You know, amplify their voices, and you know, do what you can to improve what is immediately in front of you.
Yeah.
That's a very good message.
You look at things like Ojoy sex toy. You look at, like, all of these both sex positive, humanity positive things out there, and then all you have to do is just clamp down on them because somebody's saying something you don't agree with. And why? Why would you want to do that ever? And one would say, for instance, if we talk about the idea of liberal versus conservative, where conservative people are saying that you're taking away their right to speak. It's not that you're taking away their right to speak. You're telling them to speak better.
Yeah, exactly. You can say what you like, but you got to understand that it affects others, and you got to live with the consequence.
Yeah.
Yep. There's that one XKCD comic that I keep referring to. It's like, like people, like if people who moan about people who are sort of offended and take action against stuff that you say. Like, they're not clamping down on your right to free speech. They're just saying they're not going to entertain your bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for that whole toy box sharing analogy.
For sure.
Where people are just so scared of others touching their stuff, and so afraid of change, and so afraid of, you know, doing things differently with a bigger picture in mind.
Yeah. And art's been showing that for goodness knows how long. It's at the forefront of... Art
is powerful for affecting change, very much so. I mean, look at the apartheid artists that we had. I learned about this stuff in matriculous, so I can't remember specific names, but I just remember looking at all these things and going, wow, I had no idea art played such a big role. You know, because it's... I wouldn't say insidious is the right word to use, but, you know, it gets under your skin.
It's
before you know what's even happening.
It's haunting. It sticks with you. It's cloying.
Yeah. It was John Berger, I think, that said in his book. Oh, I forgot the name of the book. I told you I'm not very good at remembering things, but the quote is basically along the lines of the purpose of art should always be to affect a change in the viewer. It doesn't need to be necessarily something that makes you happy immediately or whatever, but the fact that you look at something and you receive an image through the lens of a person that observed something and put it down, whether it be writing or art or, you know, movies or whatever, you get this information into yourself and it changes you, even just a little bit. Like, it can make you sad, or it can make you think, or it can make you feel better about life or whatever. But the point is, the work entered you and became a part of your I guess, lexicon, if that's the right word. Like, it became part of you.
Your frame of reference.
Yeah. And from that, you can build. Art is very important for making connections between people and things. So having art in your home to look at, or art online or on your phone or whatever, I think it's very important for humans to have that around them.
It's not just aesthetically pleasing. It invokes something in people.
Yeah. I mean, it can be. Something can just be pretty, and you can just like literally appreciate how nice a leaf looks when it's fallen off a tree or something. But even that, like, it does something to your soul.
Yeah, like for me, I have I splurged a little bit, and at one point bought some lithographs from John Avon. He was an illustrator for Magic: The Gathering, and he did a set of full art lands, like sort of for that set, and one of each swamp, island, mountain, plains.
Wow, nice.
The thing. So that's hanging on my wall now, and it looks nice and colorful. It's like a nice piece of art, but if you know about it, then you're in the know, and then we sort of have a conversation piece going already, and that looking back at that stuff, it invokes like the fun times I have playing Magic kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it forms connections socially, because it's like a signal that you send to people who might be interested in the same things, and that's like a point of connection you have.
Yeah.
No, art is fantastic. It's like, I mean, I could go on about this for quite a long time and get all deep and shit, but art can just be pretty, but it's more than that.
It's supposed to be more than that as well. It has a bit of an obligation to be a little bit more than that sometimes.
Yeah, depending on your platform. I mean, I wouldn't expect my neighbor's 5-year-old to to produce amazing, meaningful portraits of his parents, but
I mean, it's not like the 5-year-old's gonna have like the girl with the pearl earrings being put up on the fridge or something.
Maybe that's why the middle child is always crying. I don't know. My neighbor's children have two modes. They have silence, and they have I'm literally being peeled with an orange peeler level of noise.
Nice.
And it's frustrating. Hence the Bose, the investment.
Hence the nice headphones that you mentioned earlier that I so want. Like I said, my office is open plan. Does not work for a coder. Unless you're surrounded by other coders, which I am not.
If you can find someone who can go to Germany, like I did, get it for cheaper, I would say try and do that.
We have a contact.
Because electronics are just stupid expensive in this country.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, it is really, like, the tax on it's like dumb as hell, but yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well. We've actually like sort of just hit an hour and a half. Do you think we're gonna wrap this up a little bit, or would you like to continue talking?
Up to you.
Ivik?
To continue talking just a little bit more, I think.
Sure.
It's a great topic that we have currently.
Yeah, for
sure. And I think very relevant to sort of people in their mid to late 20s and sort of our age and 30s. There's like a zeitgeist thing that's going on, and people are kind of, I hesitate to use the term waking up, because that's like wake up America, but
hashtag woke.
But people are more connected than ever now online via social media, and I think it's really good to see that social movements are gaining traction, but it feels like just as fast as they gain traction, people are trying to put in archaic laws to break them down again.
Or like as fast as one pops up, the next one comes along and distracts from that.
Yeah.
What happened to Coney 2012?
Oh God, somebody was tweeting about that the other day.
Like, is that guy still there? Like that kind of stuff.
Didn't he end up like sexually doing something naughty, like having a fap in public or some? I remember there was some scandal, like he went off the rails.
I have no idea. Well, he's
the
a
guy
warlord,
that
so...
Oh, the guy. No, I'm talking about the organizer of the campaign. Like he went completely off the rails.
Oh,
okay.
Goodness.
There was something, I can't remember exactly what it is, but I remember looking at this and going, "Oh Lord!" It's like that dolphin costume, dude. Who was that guy? The dolphin, the Christian dolphin or something, the abstinence dolphin.
The absolutely.
guy that had a
Fappy the
dolphin.
dolphin.
Fappy the dolphin.
Yeah.
Or was that a joke? I might have
What's his
been
name?
taking it by a ruse. Yeah, I don't know.
Fappy the dolphin.
I believe it was something like that. But then this person was like
And that's
donning
why-
this costume and preaching abstinence, and then he was also caught his hand in his pants, so to speak,
of
in
course.
public. And yeah.
The anti-masturbation dolphin.
Well, there's my evening. Like,
Did you Google it?
like, what is this even?
Wait, let me Google it. My friend always says I have a special internet that gives weird search results, so
Okay. This
The
is
Nell's
like,
internet.
What the?
well,
oh man.
there's my like research for the internet.
Oh, I did not. Oh, safe search is off. That was maybe not wise. Close that tab. And it wasn't on incognito. So I don't know what.
Is...
Hubris.
Hubris.
Wow.
Remember what Fappy the dolphin says? Only you can prevent masturbation.
Oh, jeez.
My God.
The internet. Anyway, so how did we get here exactly? Coney, I think.
Yeah.
And before that,
From social responsibility
oh yes.
Yeah.
to Coney 2012.
And how quickly things change.
Yeah. But I think the part of the reason why things are picking up steam now is because people are more connected via social media. So people who previously didn't have the platform to speak up now do, which is fantastic because it's adding very, very valuable, unheard voices to a previously very uniform conversation.
Yeah.
Mm. No, definitely.
And that's why people are so. Oh my! What did you just uploaded? Okay, let's not include that in the chat. Yeah, it's people are upset because other people are touching their stuff now,
Yeah.
and it's very much of like, we don't serve your kind here. That kind of mentality of no blacks allowed in the all white diner, and that's exactly the same attitude. People just dress it up in nicer words now, but at the core, it's still the same thing.
Mm. And which is
it's-
bullshit.
Yeah. And like it's everybody keeps on sitting down and going like, oh no, but Nazis don't exist anymore. They all died out in 1945. That
Yeah, how did we go from that to full on
yeah.
resurgence?
Yeah.
I don't get. Fuck my life.
It's
Like,
nuts.
how is that
But
still? How are we still
it
talking
was-
about this every
The
week?
issue, the issue is that guess what really happened is that I'm pretty sure that everybody found the internet, and they're like, wow, this seems like a place that I can put my really really misogynistic like.
And
Bullshit
yeah,
propaganda.
there will always be somebody who shares your interest. That's like the good and the bad thing about the internet. Like
You can
you
find
can
your echo
search for
chamber.
anything. Literally anything.
You can totally find your echo chamber.
I was looking for the manual to an old fan that we had, like an old Toshiba. Remember those grey ones with the blue stripes on them?
Yeah.
Oh,
Looking for the manual to that, and I found a vintage fan enthusiast message board.
Wait, what?
There are people that collect old fans and just have them, I guess.
And fix them.
No, they just have them.
But they fix them as well.
No, they don't. I saw pictures. These people just put them up in like this huge. It looks like a junkyard, just a garage full of ancient, stinky old fans. Well, they looked stinky. I'm not sure if they were, but nasty stuff. And I'm like, there really, really is a community for everything.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Fortunately / unfortunately.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, you turn all those fans on, and you've got one hell of a freaking concert.
But do they pay? Because you need the 1,000 paying fan.
Hmm. Speaking of,
Okay.
there's a huge metal fan in my room, and it's not you.
I have one sitting in a chair playing with the cat, and I have.
You have one, but the question is, which one works hardest?
I would say it's a tie.
Oh, shame.
Yeah, but the one is dustier than the other.
Don't mean to talk.
Ben's very
talk
confused.
I don't mean to talk cock on your man. Sorry, Ben.
Shame. No, he's lovely.
Yeah.
Well, he has to be, otherwise I wouldn't have married him.
Yeah.
And very patient.
Patience is important.
Yeah.
But and like, what was it? I was having a conversation about this. I think it was yesterday. You can choose to not be a shitty person. You
Yes.
literally can.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yet, if you look at this entire idea where people are sitting there like going like, oh no, but you know we've got a sex change going or this and that, or you know, I am say a black person and things like that. I can't change who I was born as, but I can change how I portray myself.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I mean, if I want to fall into the demographic, the demographic of being a white South African, Afrikaans-born person, then I definitely can. But the answer is I don't want to. I don't like the stereotype. It's not my favorite thing.
Yeah. It is a bit of a skeleton in our closet.
Yeah.
It's sort of the like choose to not be a shitty person thing. It's like that's why you should never like laugh at fat people at the gym. Like you can like they're there to change themselves, but you can't really sort of if you're a dick, then like that's because you chose to be it.
Yeah.
Like, it's because you can't really like try and gym your personality for a little bit. Just do some work on that.
And unlike fat people, nobody needs to respect you if you have a shitty personality.
Yeah.
Where body positivity is actually about respecting humans as humans.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's that tolerance. What do you call the thing? The tolerance.
Paradox of tolerance.
Yes, that one.
Yeah. You can't be tolerant of everything, otherwise Nazis happen.
Yeah, basically. You got to be intolerant of intolerant.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a very interesting. I'm honestly wondering, you know, providing our planet actually survives another 1,000 years, what will future historians think and say about this period of history?
They'll just go like, fuck, man.
Yeah, because I mean, we've never been as good at documenting every bloody mundane thing in existence as we are now.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I can't see that slowing down.
Yeah.
You know, that the information's going to be there, barring, of course, you know, some catastrophe, like the entirety of the cloud gets wiped out with all the information on it. But like,
or like the solar flare fucks everything out.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's possible.
Totes.
Yeah.
But you got to wonder, like, this will be known as the age of something.
Yeah.
I hope it ends up with a happy ending, because otherwise, you know, it's gonna be shit.
It's gonna be shit regardless.
Feeling. I have a good feeling about.
It's like exact opposite sides of the table right here, Ivik.
But I really do have a good feeling about humanity in general. I think that we all have the capacity to be able to understand particular things. I mean, hell, even like, and oddly enough, I've had my own weird dealings with semi-Nazi, racist people on a daily basis. And at the end of the day, like, even they need somebody to listen and talk to them about them. And like, while accepting the fact that they are the way that they are, showing them why they shouldn't be that way in a rational conversation more often than not, shows them that they're being shitty people.
Yeah, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, but you got to pick your battle. But the important thing is that you do pick them, because some people just choose to not engage at all, which is also not helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part and parcel of this platform. Beyond the fact that we're taking somebody like you, for instance, talking to you about like your art and everything like that. What we're also talking about is that we're talking about you as a person, and that's one of the reasons why the podcast is something that I hope Scratch enjoys, but something that I really, really enjoy doing is the fact that we learn about people for people's sake.
Yeah.
it's not about like, I mean, we don't have the biggest listener base, and that's the only unfortunate thing. It grows naturally more than it grows that, oh no, we had, say, PewDiePie on, for God's sakes, and we got like 20 million other people listening. Then what's the point? What would the point have been getting that amount of people and then suddenly being pressured to do a particular thing in a particular way that isn't the way that we wanted to do it in the first place?
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned that, because I think crowdfunding has had a big influence on that kind of thing. Where before you were beholden to, look at what YouTube has done to itself and to its users. I mean, it's insane.
It's the most toxic thing.
Yeah, stuff like being crowdfunded for things that is not necessarily advertiser friendly or seen as a risky topic to discuss, or I really do have a really good feeling about crowdfunding and where it's headed and where it's taking us, because that organic growth that you speak about is so important. It might be slow growth, but definitely quality over quantity, and that's also why I love my 7 patrons. I wouldn't mind if there was more, but I know that the 7 people that do support me on there really do it because they genuinely want to see me succeed, and that's a feeling that money can't buy.
Yeah,
very true.
They're invested in your growth.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, guys, if you're listening.
And that's amazing. I think that, and I love that idea as well. And I mean, it's one of the same things that, like, I know that, for instance, with our radio show, we could very easily go, we want this person and this person and this person because they're well known, and we can probably try to, skim particular types of amounts of money off of people by saying that we have this, but it's, subscriber only.
Yeah.
And in that kind of sense, like, people would then be losing out on a particular experience, on a particular conversation.
Yeah.
And the conversation needs to be had. And we're very glad to have you, for instance, because I don't think that we've really covered this from a South African perspective as much. And I think that, like, the introduction that we had with that part of the conversation when we were talking about people of color from South Africa getting into the creative areas. I mean, and like, I work for a particular college that I can't necessarily say the name of that has a graphic design department. And there are more people in the graphic design department that are people of color now. And I think that that's one of the most amazing
That's great,
things.
yeah.
It is great. But then it becomes our responsibility to allow them that kind of freedom to be able to say things the way that they want to say it. Not just always talking about people like William Kentridge or, this particular artist or that particular artist.
Yeah.
It's about giving them the history of what art was about and telling them that the next step that we're supposed to be taking is that you are creating 20 years from now's history class.
Yeah. Yeah, I think teachers have such an important job. It's just unfathomable how big of an impact a good teacher has on your life. I mean, I think we have a story, hopefully, at least of one teacher that really, really made a difference for us. And it's always somebody who's committed and passionate. Yeah. And saw you as a person and not just a number to pass their class. It's incredibly important work, and a lot of my friends are actually sort of at an age where they're starting to consider teaching. Some of them maybe, like myself, try to make a go of it as freelancers that maybe didn't work out as well. I mean, myself, I'm actually gearing up to teach beginners watercolor classes next year because I did 2, and it turned out that it's actually a lot of fun. But it's for adults. I'm not very good with kids, so I decided to stick to my capabilities. But I have some friends that are teaching primary school and people that are working with impoverished youth and people that are working with LGBTQI youth. And, it's that kind of thing is just so important for the future of the world, not just the country. I mean, those people are going to grow up to be the next finance ministers and the next, basically they're going to be leading the way, and you cannot build a house on sand.
Yeah.
So I think teachers are very much underpaid and underappreciated, and I think anyone who teaches for the passion of it and makes a positive impact is an absolute hero.
No.
The end.
Okay. Oh, Captain, my captain.
Oh. Jeez, when I had that amount of passion. Yeah.
But I do hear some stories of people, oh man, especially the tertiary institutions where the fresh crops are always straight out of high school and very, very entitled.
Okay.
That's a big problem that I've noticed. Even the years after us, we had, when I graduated, was 2010, and I think it was either 2 or 3 years below us, that fresh crop essentially ran some of the tutors out of the institution because they said your marking is too strict and you're too rude to us and blah blah blah. And I have a friend who she had, let me see how I can praise this without getting anyone into trouble, but she had a student who essentially told her she refuses to do the work she's handing out because it's not for marks. And
oh, good.
It's like, but this is a very, very important experience that you're building up. This is for your portfolio. This is life skills that I'm trying to teach you. And this kid just point blank refused, and eventually got her dad involved, who's a lawyer or something.
Ugh.
And ended up screaming at my friend in class, and my friend had to apologize to her father and to her and in front of the head, like that kind of thing.
Customer's always right.
That, yeah. Essentially, the head actually told her, this person is paying to be here. They're a customer and we can't treat them this way. So regardless if you're right or wrong, make nice. And I just find that so disheartening,
Yeah. But I don't know. Hell, I've been teaching for 4 years at our particular college, and I say college, but it's always been like, it's, I don't know, they keep piling on work but not increasing salaries kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's weird kind of sitting down and going like, I could probably leave. There are ways that one can leave, but I'm never going to have the same kind of experience. I'm never going to have the same kind of students. I don't have that kind of impact anymore. And it's literally one of the reasons why one stays. And it gets to you after a while.
I can imagine.
But people who teach do it for passion a large amount of the time. And there are some teachers out there who teach for money, and I don't understand anymore. Because where did they get it?
Where do you come from where this is a lot of money to you?
But, and it's the same thing for art and the arts. You look at people who write books. You look at people who do these things because they are passion projects. I mean, we had a writer on a couple of months back who literally said that they had an earworm, that this particular character had been talking to them for months, years on end, until he finally put pen to paper. And
until he sprayed doom under his pillow.
But
no, I hear you. Yeah.
It's one of those things. It becomes a product of your passions.
It's a feeling of there is no plan B.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt when, actually, on the first day when I arrived for art school registration, they had signed me up for the wrong course, and my name wasn't on the paper, and I had like a meltdown because there literally was no plan B. When I looked at the potential for my life without art school or being an artist, there was just nothing there. It was completely blank. There was a blank spot in my brain because I just had not considered that I could be or do anything else. So yeah, it's very much a drive inside of you that pushes you on, even though there's feast and famine and it's really crap sometimes, and you don't feel appreciated. But yeah, passion is its own reward sometimes.
Yeah. And we're glad that you share your passion with us on the show. It's
thank you.
really important.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for waiting this long for the last video beforehand.
Yeah, technical
It's okay.
nonsense.
It's okay. We had load shedding and we
Yeah.
had stuff. So
Load shedding, what a bloody nightmare.
I know.
I think this might actually be a good time to sort of wrap it up. I think I'm not
S-
sure.
Okay.
Just snap it off.
Knipe off. Dude, don't you love when dogs have a poo and they're done and their tail kind of goes click? Have you seen that? It's the
No.
funniest thing to me. It's like a sausage machine that just like the sausage breaks off and the tail just goes click,
God damn it.
down and up.
And literally on that bombshell.
Yeah, on that note.
The bum shell.
Yep. Any case, so that was Danelle Malan, or Dwuff, on Twitter and everywhere else. For those of you guys who have been listening this long, we really do appreciate it. Thank you for listening to us as always. And I think next week, let me see. I think we do have a person who is scheduled. It's either Tempo or Trace.
Okay.
Both of them with MFF experience talks.
Woo.
Ooh, that
Yeah.
sounds nice.
Both of them went, and I know that Trace. I actually asked Trace if he could just give us like a rundown as a. He actually worked as a. He worked as a volunteer. This year.
Interesting.
So there's volunteer information from him.
That actually is a really good idea to attend a FurCon as a volunteer.
Yeah.
I've never considered that.
Because MFF, if you actually spend 10 hours doing like volunteer work, your next year's convention fee is paid for.
Oh wow, that's nice.
That's
For
pretty cool.
anybody who's listening, that's your tip for the end of the podcast, the one that you've probably already cut off by now.
Sorry about the dog poo. Will you cut that?
There is no editing.
No.
Don't have the budget.
I'm gonna get a lot of scat fan art probably as a result of that.
Again, it all depends on whether somebody listens all the way to here.
Yeah.
For those of you
Yes.
guys who do listen all the way to here, leave a comment on the YouTube channel.
What are your experiences with dog feces? Actually, no, don't. These are furries we are talking about.
Yeah, let's not. Let's stop it from becoming that one episode of Bob's Burgers.
Oh god, Bob's Burgers is so good.
I love Bob's Burgers.
Oh, it's so good. I hate the chins, but I love the show.
You hate that?
The chins, the lack of chins.
Oh.
No, I just say, like, what?
Yeah.
Ben says it's earthworm anatomy.
Ah,
I love it
Earthworm
though.
Bob.
So good.
Yeah, so good. And if
Alright.
anyone isn't watching, if anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, and you don't watch Bob's Burgers, why the hell are you not watching Bob's Burgers?
Did you know the guy who voices Bob,
Mm-hmm.
Ron H. Benjamin?
H. John Benjamin.
H. John, sorry, whatever, that
Mhm.
one. Ben always tells me the name. But
Yeah.
the voice actor has an album, a music album.
What?
And it's so funny because he can't play the piano. It's literally, what's the first track called? I Can't Play the Piano.
He made a jazz album where he did yeah.
And it's on Google Play, actually. It's on the Play, the Play app.
word. Okay.
Please do yourself a favor and listen to it. It is something to behold with your
Okay.
ear holes.
Okay, I will definitely. This is definitely a thing that's gonna happen. Oh shit! Keep knocking the mic.
Sure. Vroom.
Sorry.
So, anybody who's listening, they can find you on all of the links that we've now provided in the YouTube video itself. It's available on furry.fm if you guys have a look at the little drop down there. You've got the Facebook, Instagram, Behance.
Behance?
X- Is it?
Beyonce.
Has,
No!
has that not
well
has that
as-
not been a thing yet?
It's the first time I heard it, so congratulations on at least being the first person to make that joke at me.
Woohoo! Small
And
victory.
then your Patreon is patreon.com Danelle Malan.
Yes, I will drop my Twitch in here in a second.
And these are all going to be links in the video itself, as well as, I think, because we have a a podcast. I think we're on Podbean nowadays as well.
Mm.
So this will also be uploaded there. Yeah, we've really.
Oh god.
What the hell is that?
It's my cat with my eyes photoshopped
Oh,
onto
God.
it. I keep forgetting that that's my icon, and then when you put the link, it goes huge in the preview. My
That's
precious child.
slightly disturbing.
You should see the other one because I swapped our eyes.
It's like a Felix the Band album cover.
Excuse me. Actually, let me.
Badge just made a comment on this and said it looks like Abe. He's glad that Abe's Odyssey got a remake.
Oh gosh.
Same.
Oh god. Oh,
Uh,
sorry. I'm just seeing all the stuff on my my root folder. I keep forgetting I have this stuff. And some of it is so weird.
That is definitely something.
mm-mm.
Where is it? Oh lord. Sorry. Be glad you're not seeing what I'm seeing.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, so we can do the podcast out. But oh, here it is.
Uh-huh.
What are we doing?
I'm showing you the other half of that picture.
Okay.
Ah.
Oh, right.
I think I prefer the cat.
It got worse.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it did.
Totally did.
I'm gonna have nightmares.
I'm not sure whether to say I'm sorry or it's a pleasure.
Just take it at face value. Just it happened, and we have to deal with it now.
Okay.
Here's something of a palette cleanser.
Okay.
Another Photoshop masterpiece by yours truly.
Nice. Right, but thank you very much for being on. We really do appreciate it, and I think
Thank you for having me.
definitely like these kinds of conversations are the kinds of conversations we live for. Sort of wide-ranging, talking about every kind of issue possible, as well as talking about your own work and influences and things like that. We'd love to have you on again if.
Thank
if
you.
you're
Yeah,
allowed.
I'd love to.
Awesome, because it's always actually like maybe your husband's also more than welcome to join us next time as well. That'd be great.
I think he'd enjoy that actually.
Yeah. All right, but thanks for being on. We really do appreciate it, and
Thanks.
yeah, we'll be in touch again soon.
Cool. Thanks for having me. It was great to have a captive audience to listen to my nattering.
No, it really was fun. Like, thank you so much.
Great,
And
awesome.
to everyone listening, after this, there will probably not be music because when will this be played? Monday night?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Monday night.
So, yeah.
Maybe I'll play music Monday night just for the hell of it.
Don't force yourself. But yeah.
No, I love.
Play
playing
some
music.
South African metal.
That's what I do all the time. Do you have any
Great.
idea how often I play
Good.
Strident?
Nice.
Like all the time. And
Hell
then there's
yes.
like there's like one or two South African furry musicians
Oh,
who I'll pop a link as soon as I can remember.
cool.
All right.
Okay. All right. I'll see you guys next week then.
Okay. Have a good evening.
Same to you.
Cheers,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.
Bye. Cheerio.